Welcome back to another episode of our Drift Car Build-Off presented by Spec Clutch and Koyorad.
There's been a lot of comments about us calling this the $4,000 BMW, so we figured out we'd add up all our bills and let you guys know what it really cost to get to this point.
So there's been a lot of comments.
A few, yeah.
Trolls.
There's some sensitive people out there.
People complaining about this being a $4,000 M3. And the truth of the matter is, it really is a $4,000 M3. At least it was when we purchased it.
That's what you paid for it.
That's what we paid for it.
In US dollars.
Exactly, US dollars. So
yeah.
That was the whole premise. I mean, we weren't lying about that, but people were kind of up in arms as this build kept going, and we were titling it the $4,000 M3. And yes, it wasn't or isn't worth $4,000 anymore. That's just common, normal. It's just like if you go buy a salvaged car that was worth 20 grand and you fix it, it's usually worth a little bit more money.
Yeah, it's like the abandoned STI. It's not abandoned anymore, people. It's just a name.
Yeah.
Anyway, given the controversy over us calling that, we figured we would do a little math here and actually give you a running total of what the builds cost so far. And it's actually not a very big number. It's less than I thought it was going to be, given how much some of our other builds cost.
For me, it's kind of spot on. Like, before we even get into the numbers, modifying a car isn't cheap.
No, of course.
And to me, if you're using quality parts, it's about 10 grand.
And we're using new parts.
Yes.
You could do it cheaper by buying used parts.
100%.
Using,
cutting corners
eBay
here and
brands,
there, doing this and that
using eBay front lips, you can save money.
We cheaped out in a couple spots. I mean, that deck is about as cheap as they come.
$30 head unit?
For, a head unit. Yeah. The lip is about as cheap as they come.
The corner lights were cheapies.
Yeah, they were super
too,
cheapies. So we certainly
we recycled the racing seat and the harness.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's ways to save money doing
this. For sure there is. But the whole thing of us is we want a reliable car. That was the goal with this build from the beginning, was to make sure that this is reliable, and that's why we went through so much effort reinforcing the subframe, taking the motor out and fixing all that stuff up. We could have left it and just sent it, and maybe it would have been good, or maybe it would have spun a rod bearing. Judging by the way the rod bearings looked, I think we would have been up.
We were
some
rolling
serious trouble for sure. So our maintenance total was $1,650, which isn't bad to get a 300,000 kilometer BMW.
Yeah,
kind of up to spec. There were other items such as suspension that needed to be replaced, and that's where we kind of get into the whole mod list.
Right. I mean, it's a gray area in that we're modifying the car, but we're also replacing a bunch of worn-out parts that you could call replacement parts. But in terms of the basic mechanical maintenance in the engine bay, those costs were $1,650. Yeah. And that doesn't include labor, obviously.
The totals of the parts, like we got some of that stuff sponsored, some of that stuff we paid full price, some of that stuff we paid half price. So, it varies. I don't even know exactly what we're in it for, but I mean, if we added up all of the parts into this build
at retail cost,
which is what we just did,
that's what we're going to give you.
Yeah, we are at what was it? Just a hair shy of 14.
Just a hair over 14 grand.
Yeah, total, so that's the parts alone, and that seems expensive. But again, when you start adding up what we put into this car and what it is now, like it's pretty damn good. When I was looking for this car originally, so many of you said, oh, you should have just started off with a cleaner example. Yeah, the issue is buying that car is a $15,000 US
minimum
investment, and then you still have to do the Vanos, you still have to do the rear subframe, because the majority of the cars don't have them done. Like if you want to buy one that's got all that done, that's a $20,000 car usually.
Yeah.
So those are like the mint ones, right?
And if we're going to do bushings, suspension, and brakes anyway, then why pay a premium for a nicer car?
Exactly, and that's always my mentality with this stuff: is buy the cheapest, highest mileage vehicle that's in decent shape, and then fix it up, because that's the lower investment we have, the better, especially for something like a drift car, right?
Yeah.
Like if we were building a show car, for sure you want to get the best, lowest mileage vehicle you can get, right? But we're in the business of like fixing these cars up and driving them hard. So this type of vehicle, to me, made the most sense.
Yeah, no, it was a perfect candidate for a drift car, I think. So why don't we break down for people what the performance parts, the aftermarket parts cost us on this build, and maybe we'll even go a little further.
Well, it would be retail. It didn't cost us.
Yeah, true. Yeah. What the retail cost of the parts are. And maybe we'll go a little further to sort of highlight what we think were the essential things that this car needed to be what we consider a good starter drift car.
Yeah.
versus what we did because we wanted to.
Yeah.
We felt it would improve the car,
Yeah.
but it wasn't essential for it to be a
Right,
drift car.
right,
Like
right.
the wheels and tires. I mean, we could drift this thing on the stock wheels and tires that it came on. Although those were,
I mean, I would have gone out and bought $500 M3 wheels with cheap tires. We could have done that for sure, right?
Sure.
But we wanted something. We want these cars to look good.
yeah.
Obviously.
And to be honest, those Koenigs you can buy online for under $1,000.
Yeah.
I looked them up. They're about $920 for the set of 4.
Yeah.
And those Estino tires are really affordable. They're only like, I think $520 US. As far as like the essential stuff goes, yes, the series is sponsored by a clutch company and a cooling company, but those are really, I think, with a car like this, pretty much essential upgrades.
For sure.
The clutch especially.
Well, this one needed a clutch almost,
It was-
right? Like
it was done.
It was right at the last leg,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't have been comfortable drifting with it.
And can you drift on a stock clutch? Of course you can, but you're
For
going to
sure.
wear it out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Where with this stage 3 clutch, we can clutch kick this thing all day long, and it's going to take the beating. It's designed to take the kind of heat that clutch kicking puts into it.
Yep.
So to me, at $770, that was well worth it. And the Koyo Rad and power steering coolers only cost $540 retail. So not a huge amount of money to give you the cooling you need to go to the track and just pound on this thing all day long and not worry about
Yeah, for
overheating
sure.
the motor.
Future proofing was one of the things we wanted to do with this thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The brakes we could have done without, I think,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
wanted good brakes. I want to make sure that if I'm in the middle of a slide, I can brake and not go into somebody. I mean, there's certainly a level, a threshold there, but that was an item I wanted to add. You could have stuck with the stock brakes on this car. Yeah, they were crusty. You could have gotten the rotors turned and saved a couple bucks there, right?
Yeah, you could have. And I mean, we did all 4 corners, so that wasn't inexpensive. I think that was about $1,200
Yeah,
to do the
not
brakes.
cheap.
But again, it's like a new car now. We'll be able to go to the track and beat on it all day long and not worry about, am I going to run out of pads or am I going to overheat the brakes? So maybe not essential, but certainly a worthwhile upgrade for any track car.
Yep.
Let's see, where do you go from there?
Coilovers we had to do because the rear springs were shot, so that's an item I think we say needed.
We did all the bushings, and some of them needed to be done.
Yes.
Some of them I would consider like a maintenance item.
Yeah.
Some of them we didn't need to do, but we had the kit, so why
Yeah.
not put them all in? That was a lot of work, by the way.
It was.
Holy
it was.
smokes.
Even doing the rear subframe, right? Like, could we gotten away with not doing that? I think we could have. It's just, you read the stuff online and everybody says, do the reinforcement. If that stuff cracks and it gets to a point where it's past, you're really going to have to replace so many of the pickup points. And I was like, you know what? Not worth a chance. Let's do it. It was a lot of work.
My God.
Like, that was a lot of work. This whole build was a lot of work. Like, we pulled the motor, we rebuilt this car, and truthfully, I didn't think it was going to take that long, but it's just like when we did the Ass 2000, it also took a long time, because the moment you start dropping both subframes and you get into that stuff and you're rebuilding it, it's time. But it's worth the effort, in my opinion.
And I mean, to be fair, we're picky.
Yeah.
Pete's especially picky, and he wants things done right. He wants to refresh things the right way. So, a lot of people approach drifting in a more, send it kind of mentality than we do. And
Could we gone without the roll bar?
in a convertible,
I don't think so.
do you want to meet your baby when it's born?
Yeah, so I think the roll bar was a necessity. The racing seat is a necessity. Both high ticket items, but again, well worth it.
And we didn't buy the seat. We recycled that from
Yeah,
a Mustang.
yeah.
So even though I put it in here as I think $630,
Yeah.
we didn't spend that money, which was nice. Same with the harness. We recycled that I think out of one of our other cars.
Yep.
And that's only maybe $180 for that
Yep.
harness. But a custom roll bar for this car, I priced at $800 US. I think we paid Envy around $1,000 for that.
I think so, yeah.
Which is actually a bargain considering how much work it is.
Oh, it's so much time and effort.
It's not an easy job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were bolt-in options for this chassis and for the coupes, but we didn't really like the design of the
No,
ones,
we didn't.
especially
and
for
the
the
placement
cabriolet.
of them, they were far forward. I didn't love
Yeah.
that. So I think we got the best of the best there, for
We
sure.
did, and if you live in Southern Ontario, go to Envy Auto and get yourself a custom roll bar. 'Cause
Definitely.
Vin does amazing work.
does.
No doubt about it. The Momo steering wheel, that's
Yeah, you
$250.
could've- yeah, done
We
without.
could have recycled something out of one of our cars.
Or
if we
use the
wanted to.
factory one, like, it's fine.
Yeah, the carbon fiber hood, I thought would be more than that. It was only, that thing lists on site for $1,000.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, $1,000 to spend on a hood on a $4,000 M3 seems kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but for a carbon fiber hood,
Yeah.
for a Euro sports car, I figured it'd be like $2,000.
No, and it fit well. I definitely think it changes the look of this vehicle tremendously versus the old one that was kind of wrinkled in a couple spots. So, but again, we could have reused that, saved
I don't know.
ourselves. I think, like, if you look at the whole thing, we probably could have saved $5,000
Sure.
not investing in a lot of the stuff we didn't.
So what do you think the most expensive item is that we put on this whole car?
Geez, I gotta say it was the hood.
No, the hood was only $1,000. The coilovers were $1,375.
Oh, right, yeah.
But the exhaust, that Borla S-Type exhaust was $1,390. That's the priciest piece we put on this whole build.
Wow.
That's kind of crazy.
Big price to pay for a good exhaust sound.
It is.
It was certainly worth it.
It's cheaper than a Kropovic or whatever, however you pronounce that.
Kropovic, I think, yeah. The M3 exhausts are pretty pricey. We're just used to the Honda Civic world where an exhaust system's like $600.
Yeah,
right?
we're definitely spoiled by it. I mean, when you look at the prices here, though, we didn't really get BMW taxed that badly on this build.
No, we didn't. And you're going to find out how well it works as a drift car in the very next episode, because that's the next thing left here is we got to hit the racetrack with this thing, and I'm beyond excited to try this thing out. Like, I've driven it on the street a couple times. It feels good. It's almost scary on the highway because it's so nimble, like the alignment. It wants to throw the back end out. On off-ramps and on-ramps, the traction control, if I push a little too hard, it's not even sliding it, and the traction control is coming on.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's gonna be drift
drifty.
ready.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's ready to go.
Well, I'm stoked to see how you like it and how Riley likes it too.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
After we get this thing working well and we get the Z working well, we'll have some kind of drift battle, some kind of competitions.
To figure out what car is the superior one, the Nissan 350Z or the M3?
Do we keep them both? Do we keep one? Do we sell both? I don't know what's going to happen, everybody. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out.